Okay, bam. Welcome everybody to the Fun Flip Repeat podcast. This is normally Joel's bit where he makes introduction, but I get the pleasure of introducing my good friend Gary Spickes, who's out of Little Rock, Arkansas, somebody that I've known for many years, and he's like one of my best friends, particularly when it comes to the real estate game. And I've just had the privilege of knowing him, I don't know, man, for 5+ years. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, probably so.
And Gary has a longer career in real estate than I do. He's helped me a great deal, kind of build our portfolio, understand deal finding, and then understand some of the mechanics that go into deal making. He's just been doing this for a very long time. It comes very natural to him. He's the Gary buys houses out of Little Rock. Like if you want to sell a house in Little Rock, you're gonna know who he is. And if you're an investor there, then you're going to want to know who he is. But today I'm getting Gary on here to just have a conversation about two super important topics that really move the needle in our business, and that is deal finding versus deal making. So Gary, that's what we want to talk about today. Man, thank you for taking time, but let's just get right into it. What would you say is the difference between deal finding and deal making in the real estate game?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for those really kind words. I don't know that I live up to that standard because you've been amazing and taught me a lot as well. I would just say that the difference between deal finding and deal, making is just not being rigid, being able to go into it with a mindset that says, okay, how can I best extract money out of this deal? How can I best make this work? So people that have been doing this a long time, especially when you're a beginner, they say, we do the Mayo, 70% minus repairs, wholesale fee, all that kind of good stuff. Where I've just found, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, when the market's been volatile and the market has been really tough with the increase in prices, to just not go into it with a mindset where cash is the only way I can buy this thing, going
Mm.
into hard to serve and understanding exactly what the seller is needing. Cash is not always the answer. It does not always, help or solve the problem. So going into it with that heart of listening to understand, hey, they do need a certain amount of cash to get rolling, but they don't need all of it at once. They're just going to sit it in a savings account. Perhaps we can do some kind of seller financing. Perhaps they owe more than I can pay, but they have a 2.5% interest rate. So doing something with the subject to, or novations, which is an opportunity to basically partner together, not have to come up with so much money to purchase it, delay the time of closing, but I put in $10,000, $15,000 to get it where it's able to extract the most to an end buyer. They partner with me, and then we're able to both, get what we need, things like that.
100%. So you just said, and I want to unpack that sort of one layer at a time. And we're going to get into some of the mechanics that you can use to be a deal maker. You just used, three of those. But in terms of even getting to the place where you can have that conversation, right? Let's start at the very top. If you're first have to like find the person that wants to sell their property and
Yep.
either sell it at a discount or sell it on some sort of creative terms to you so that you can be able to make money in this business. And you mentioned, serving them well, but even to, begin to serve them well, you have to have that conversation. So what do you think on the deal finding side of things? Because I know that you do a lot of marketing, right? And a lot of folks that are newer or that have even been in the game a long time, we hear this all the time, they struggle with consistency. So break it down super simple for deal finding on the marketing side of things. What do you think the key is to having consistency in terms of deal flow opportunities and lots of seller conversations?
Yeah, so such a good question, and that's a whole podcast in itself, right? And there's a hundred of them out there, but I would say being consistent is extremely important. And what we do today, we get paid for 90, 120 days away, or sometimes 5 years away, right? So if you're new and you're wanting to learn how to get in front of those sellers, the number one thing that I would recommend doing is telling anybody and everybody that you're looking to buy a house, right? So if you have more time than money, and you're looking for a way to, get your name out there because you're new, everybody needs to know that you buy houses, i.e. Gary Buys Houses is the name of my company. I'm not real intelligent, I'm not real clever, but at the same time, just keep it simple, stupid, right? So
Hmm.
just finding a way to have those conversations. I probably buy 3 to 5 houses a year that people just call me because I've been doing this for almost 16 years. They say, Gary, I remember we did a deal 5 years ago, and my cousin, was looking to sell a house. Someone new won't have that referral system, but it started when I kept putting my name out there, things like that. Finding an opportunity to go to like dirtcheap.com signs or dirtcheapsigns.com, putting bandit signs out, right? Putting bandit signs in the front yard if you have any rentals, doing things like that. Door knocking. I've never really door knocked very much, but I have looked on auction.com and found houses that are close to foreclosure, not a week or
Hmm.
two away because they're very difficult to stop when they're that close. But just knocking on the door, leaving a note in their mailbox, things like that. Just knowing that they're in a situation that they are very motivated to sell their property. And if they don't do anything, we have a heart to serve here at our company. And absolutely, I'm looking to provide groceries for my family. But at the same time, if this thing goes to foreclosure and they don't sell it to us, if they're not able to stop it, they lose it and get nothing. They lose
Hmm.
everything, right? So giving them an opportunity to hit the reset button, giving them an opportunity to say, hey, here's some moving money, here's some of the equity that we have in this thing to get them where they're rolling. Because a lot of people have the money to move forward. They just got so far behind, they don't have the $10,000, $15,000 in arrears that it takes to get it caught up so that the bank will actually
Hmm.
monthly bank payment. So if you can just
Yeah.
set up, man, that's the way to do it.
Well, I remember when I started out, I was kind of doing real estate on the side. And as I try to move towards going full time into it, Gary was the example to me because, like I said, he's been doing this for a long time. And you guys, Gary's done hundreds and hundreds of deals. He does deals every single month that he's keeping for his rentals or wholesaling or flipping. And so I was amazed at you and a couple of the friends that we had and a group of ours who were like, how is it that Gary shows up as Gary buys houses at somebody's doorstep and talks to a potential motivated seller that wants to trade equity in their house with Gary? And those people exist, number one. So that's the first thing to know. And what Gary's saying is true, is like they don't have any other options. I think if you want to work on the skills of being a deal finder, you do exactly and start with what you're saying, which is just start with telling stories, start with telling other people what it is that you do. And the best deals that you ever do are the ones that come from a referral network. There's
100%.
no competition. And everybody who is doing this has material in what they're doing by telling stories, by doing something as simple as maybe on your email message saying, P.S. I buy houses, right? And that's being broadcast to everybody you send an email to. And so you got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and just tell other people what it is you're doing, what you're looking for, who you're looking to serve. And you'd be surprised what kinds of seeds that you'll plant and how that might pay off for you months and years down the road. So I think that's something that's a nugget that we can all take away from. And the more, what I hear you saying is the more consistent you are with the output of that, with taking action and sending out that messaging, whether it's door knocking or looking at leads on foreclosures or sending out direct mail or whatever, right? It's just like you want to overload on that with either the investment of your time or your money, and then you get a result and you kind of try to fine tune that result from there. So that is a podcast in and of itself, but you got to start the conversation. I guess what I'm trying to maybe get at is you really can't be a deal maker until you're a deal finder.
Yeah.
So you have to have that conversation to begin with before you can go. I mean, you can know all about subject to the existing mortgage. You could pay Pace Morby $10,000, $50,000, whatever your charge is, and learn about it. But if you're not having the conversation, what good is that?
Right. And I'll give you a really good example and just super short. When I first started, my mentor would tell me I need to pay X amount of money for a property. And I just thought he was cheap. I just thought he didn't understand the market, all these things. And I bring him a deal and I bring him a deal, right? And it was never up to his standards until I brought him a deal. And then
Mm-hmm.
it was like, yeah, that's it. And then it clicked in my head. Well, this is
This
a
is what a deal
possibility.
is.
This is real, right? My best friend did a deal. We had some tornadoes come through the area in Little Rock 2 years ago, and same thing, man. Didn't be deals, man. You're not gonna make any money. That's not gonna work. It's too expensive. Just really felt discouraged. But he bought a deal that was like he bought it for lot value. You put probably $60,000 in it, and it's probably worth $300,000 right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he goes, "This is possible."
Mm-hmm.
That's a deal. So once you realize this is a possibility. This is not a snipe hunt. You know what I mean? You're out there and you're really
I snipe on
doing
you.
it, and it's just eye opening.
Yeah, 100%. I was amazed. I didn't understand when we were in a mastermind together and you were showing up and you were telling me the numbers of like you're buying this deal 60 cents on the dollar, 70 cents on the dollar and I'm like, "How is that happening? I don't understand." And then once you put yourself out there, get out of your comfort zone and believe that that's possible, then that's where the options come from. Right. But let's pivot real quick because this doesn't need to be a show about marketing. I mean, Gary is a very experienced and sophisticated investor. He's got a lot of tools in his tool belt. And I don't want to get into how we use every single one of those. I'd rather ask like, okay, because you see a lot of leads every week and every month, right? And you spend a lot on marketing. I'm not going to, show your colors there, but it's a hefty investment that you're making. The devil's in the details and it's not always as simple as show up, cash, get the deep discount and they want to trade equity. Sometimes there's more creative solutions that you can do based on the seller's needs. And how do you then, first off, do you always lead with a cash offer? Or are you out there marketing like, hey, I want to take over payments? What is the messaging and what is the confidence that you're showing up with? And you said, keep it simple, stupid. But then you said some word that I still don't even understand novations, by the way. So, sure, I mean, you know what I mean? Do the sellers, are you leading with that messaging? And how do you decide what kinds of options there might be in a situation? And then how do you think through potentially multiple forms of acquisition or multiple exits when you're underwriting a deal? So that's a long list of questions, and maybe you could just piece that out however you think in your brain.
Sure. So I'll unpack that a little bit. And Justin's taught me a lot. And one of the things that he's said over and over, and it's funny because my team, repeats it, but the confused mind says no. Okay. Confused mind is not going to move forward with the deal because they're
I'm
just,
pretty sure that was originally your
well, I'll
line.
give you credit for it. Okay. So that's what we live by, right? So to answer your question, my marketing says I'll pay you cash for your house. We can close in as little as 7 to 10 days, and I absolutely will do that, and I absolutely have done that. Okay, that helps some people. Example would be I took a job in Las Vegas. I was really supposed to be there last week, but somebody fell through on their cash on the purchase of their house. I need this down payment to close in Las Vegas. Can you buy it in 5 days? And the answer is yes. That's not going to be my highest and best offer cash wise. But what you just heard is the problem is they have a house in Las Vegas that they don't want to lose. They have a job that they have to get to. The problem is, how do I get to Las Vegas and how do I get this house? It's not, you didn't hear them say I need the most biggest bang for my buck. Now we hear that, but that's not what they're saying. So going into the living room, going into the sales conversation with an open heart, an active listener, and understanding what the problem is. Not that I've went to this seminar, I've been on YouTube, and I got money. I'll give you money. Everybody's got money. Everybody will give them money. You have the conversation, you listen to them, you hear the motivation, and everybody isn't motivated. Just because you want to sell your house and you want to sell it fast doesn't mean you're motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely often is most people that I'm able to work with are willing to trade a little bit of equity for the time and the convenience of working with us, right? So if your house is immaculate or your house is one interior painting away from being market ready, we're probably not the best fit for you. I highly recommend that you speak to so and so who
And
can
you
help.
say that.
100%. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
that's out of the script, right?
Yeah.
I'm not somebody's answer to, I'm not the answer to everybody's problems. And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the best fit, I'm a neighborly, I'm trying to help them and push them in that direction. You cannot have fear of losing the deal because if you're not a good fit for someone, it's going to come out in the shake anyways, right? I'm never going to be the
So
best.
you're saying the right customer for you wants to sell their house at a discount.
100%. So 99% of the people that we're able to work with have something going on in their life that is motivating them to sell at a deep discount. Hear me when I say this. People that are new, discount is not $5,000 less than market value. It's not even $15,000 less than market value. It's not even 20,000. Because by the time you close, by the time you pay fees, you're right there, right? So every purchase, you might as well knock 9 to 10% off of the purchase price because that's what it costs to transaction or real estate, how much it costs to do a transaction in real estate, right? So you really have to understand that they have got a need that needs to be solved, which is why they're willing to sell it at a deeper discount. And it's our job to uncover it. We're borderline therapists. I'm borderline a therapist. Genuinely, I go in here and I have conversations with them. I hear what they're saying and I say, man, I think I could help you. And then in my mind, I'm going, okay, I've got these options to your question. What do I offer? I absolutely look at a cash offer. Cash is easiest. Cash is something that I can wholesale, something that I can, get in, get out, flip it. But if I hear them saying, but cash is my lowest offer because of all the expense that it costs to cash to be king. So if I hear them say things like, I bought it 3 years ago, I'm hearing 2.5, 3.5% interest rates, right? If they're saying things like,
Mhm.
we're $5,000, $10,000 off of this cash offer, and they have a little bit of extra time, I might roll into the novation, which to your point earlier, novation is basically it's a net sale deal is what it is basically. Justin, you've got to have $150,000. You don't care how you get the 150, you just want the 150, right? Great. I can't give it to you cash. If I don't have to come up with the $150,000 to purchase it, I could just put 10,000, 7,000 in this thing, clean it out, paint it, make it where I could go to an end buyer that doesn't need to make money. Now I'm not selling to an investor that wants $30,000 in equity. I'm selling to the normal seller, so they're willing to pay higher. Because they're willing to pay higher, I'm able to pay the seller more. So that's how that works. So my to summarize all that, I know I'm throwing a lot at you. To summarize that, the best advice I'll give anybody, whether you're, the way we talk about it on our team, it's a college level, high school level, college level, NFL level, right? NFL level conversations are having one foot out the door, truly listening to them, not waiting to talk, not waiting to say what this really clever thing I heard on this podcast, listening to what they say, and then just using what they said to tailor our offer that best fits their needs. And that's the way it works.
I love that. What you do so well is that you're able to steer the conversation in a way that makes the solution their idea. So
Hope
there's
so.
a couple of things to take away from what Gary's saying. Number one, he doesn't have to do the deal, right? He always has, and seasoned acquisitions people and buyers always kind of have foot out the door. They have other opportunities because they know that there's other people that are out there that are their ideal customer that they can serve. And so, first and foremost, he's a deal finder, right? And having that foot out the door allows him to never be forceful about the solutions that are there. Rather than do that, you heard him say he's going into the conversation, open, and you're going in there and you're saying, like, you're kind of playing dumb a little bit, aren't you? Where you're like, well, I don't know. You tell me what's going to work for you here. And then they start communicating about the things that are most important to them. And what are some techniques that you use, though, to steer that conversation?
Just having a really curious
Like
heart.
maybe the what if game, right?
Yeah, like they say, the curiosity killed the cat, but
Yeah.
curiosity get you the real estate deal. I mean, just being genuinely curious as to what's going on. Why would you want to work with me, right? Why would you want a cash offer, somebody like me that you know is doing this, to make a little bit of grocery money for their family? People tell us that all the time. Why me, right? Well, I've got X, Y, and Z. Well, tell me what that looks like.
Mhm.
What do you mean when you say that? Right? Just diving deeper, because what you're going to find is one seller is going to tell you everything that you need to know in the first conversation, and sometimes it takes rapport building and 3 phone calls to get there, right? And so when they say, well, I'm going through a divorce, okay, well, you think that you check the box, there's motivation. You have to dive deeper. You understand, oh man, that's tough. I've actually personally been through a divorce, so I'll say, that's a tough time. Sorry you're dealing with that. How's the kids? How the kids handle it? Things like that. I'm not talking about real estate. Have literally 90% of my sales conversation is not about real estate. It's about what's going on. How does this help you? What helps you? And then I'll say things like, would this be of value to you? Would this be of help to you? I've done this in the past, and I've seen people in your situation feel, felt, found. Say I feel. Let's say how's the order of that go? I felt this way. I found. This, but just letting it be their idea and letting it come out of their mouth is so much more powerful than you telling them. I can't tell you how many times people give me a hug when it's all over, and they're the one that pitched me on convincing me to buy their house.
I love it. That's so right. I mean, you are acting like the therapist. And I think being so experienced and keeping it simple is staying with the motivation, staying on the topic of the motivation to get to the bottom of it. And like kind of the problems are elusive and the solutions are easy. And so once they get to the bottom of what it is that they're going through and they see what it is that they really want, then you're there to kind of lay out a couple of different things of how you can fit with their ideal scenario. And I love how you have them sort of imagine what that is, right? Imagine you're here and here's where it's going to happen. Is that something that you would say yes to? And then you're backfilling with the mechanics from there, right? Well, what we could do is novation, or I could take over payments. How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is too, to take it a step further, and I don't know really which audience we're focusing on. I think there's all different kinds, but as a beginner, you go in and you're nervous, and you say, "Man, if I could just get this deal," or "Man, I'm just really excited. Let me say it this way." But if you go into it with them, like, so I buy houses, I flip them, I rent them, I wholesale them. I do it all, right? I owner finance them, all that stuff. So it's great for me because I can go into this with the mentality of this is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage in the suburbs. I really want this for my portfolio. So I'm able to, when I drive up to that house, or I even do this a lot of times over the phone now, when I look up this house, I can determine what my exit strategy is before I go into the sales conversation. So I know it's a little bit, talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I know that this house is in a war zone. I know this house is nothing that I would be able to sell easily. It's not anything for my portfolio. I'm going to leave these exits because before I even have that sales conversation, and they have 3 options, right? They have 4 options, whatever it is. Or it's what I just said, a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage in the suburbs. I mean, pick which one works best for you, Do you want money? All of it now and a little bit less, or would you rather have more money over time? Things of that nature.
Yeah, that's right. So I just love a window into what Gary's head and how he goes and approaches different deals, because you are using so many different tools and have so many different strategies, and you have a lot of options as you do that because you've built these skills over time. And so for anybody who's listening to this, don't feel like you have to know it all and have all those tools in your tool belt. I mean, Gary is truly a master craftsman when it comes to the skill of real estate investing. And I've learned, again, a lot from how he's approached deals and run deals by him and come up with creative solutions with him. But I think that's one of the things that I would say is that as you work on the craft of keeping it simple with the seller, it's helpful to have a community of people or a friend or a group of people that understand the mechanics and the paperwork and the process of how to have these conversations, because it's like you really have to be in this web of all of that. And then the conversation has to be something that your 9-year-old niece can understand.
100%.
And that's where you can be a deal finder. That's actually how you make the shift from deal finder to deal maker, is the ability to have those conversations directly with the seller so that they can say yes to it. Because you're right, man, the confused mind does say no. And that's what I find is the hardest thing about deal making. And I've lost a lot of deals by messing this up, by, saying too many fancy terms, right? And you look back and then you reflect on, all the fancy terms that you say, and you just really want to figure out how to say things very simple and understandable so that, people feel comfortable with you. And that's the most important thing. You're doing a deal, no matter what deal you're doing the deal because there's trust. And so you can't ever talk above somebody or present options that are uncomfortable to people. So when you're making it their idea, you're letting them kind of steer that conversation, and you just do that so well. I really mean that you're a master craftsman at it. And it's fun to, learn from you and watch you do it. Yeah, man, there's so much more that we could go into, Gary. Like I just feel like we're just kicking it off, and this is kind of how we have these conversations. First, you got to be a deal finder before you're a deal maker. And then the deal maker side of things, there's a lot of confusion to just figure out what the heck does these mechanical things mean? What does this paperwork mean? How is this structured? And everything else. But then it's the conversation is where the rubber meets the road. So, if you're looking for sort of iron to sharpen iron or sharpen your pencil on some of that, there's tons of resources within our community. You can reach out to Gary on Facebook. Gary buys houses, and be his friend, and he might answer a question for you. He's a go-giver, 100%. And I appreciate your time on here, man. It's been fun talking to you
Absolutely.
and sharing
Yeah.
some of the nuggets.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And I just want to encourage anybody out there that's not done a deal or done a couple deals. Like, I know I kind of run through this quick, but trust me, I did not know how to do half this stuff until I got a deal under contract and I'm building the airplane as we're flying it, right? So just flat out, getting a deal. If it's really a deal, it won't be a problem to get it closed. You can partner with somebody, you could call me, we could work together on it. I can share what I've learned and things of that nature. But just go out there, find the deal, the rest will work itself out.
Bam. Man, well, good, dude. Thanks for taking the time, Gary. Find us on Facebook. I don't know what Joel does to sign off on this, but we'll see you guys on the next one, and appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having
Okay.
me.